SportsBeat KC is SportsBeat Live here on Friday, September 11th. I'm Blair Kirchhoff, and we're talking everything about the Chiefs' 34-20 victory over the Houston Texans in the opening game on Thursday. That is everything from the pregame demonstrations to the performance of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Patrick Mahomes, Sneed, and everybody else. We'll be talking to, in order of appearance on our postgame show, Pete Gradhoff, Sam McDowell, Sam Mellinger, Herbie Teope, and Vahe Gregorian. They had a lot to say, so let's get right into it. We are a couple hours after the Chiefs' 34-20 victory over the Houston Texans, and we are here to talk about that game and everything that happened in the game, before the game, and what coaches and players said after the game. We're going to bring in all of the Chiefs writers. Herbie Teope will be here, Sam McDowell, Vahe Gregorian, and Sam Mellinger, all planning on checking in at some point tonight. But we're getting started with Pete Gradhoff, who watches every Chiefs game. I think probably has watched every Chiefs game for many, many years and writes about them throughout the game. So, Pete, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Nice win to start the season, huh, Blair?
Yeah, it was a good win. I thought a complete win, and I've got a list of topics that I want to cover, and we'll get to all of these. Let's start with the game itself, though, and start with the running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Listen, we all thought that he would be an effective running back. We weren't sure, exactly what we were going to get from him. There was no preseason. A training camp that was different than any other ones that the Chiefs experienced. But, man, wow. What did he finish with? 138 yards on 139 yards on 20 attempts. Got into the end zone on a 27-yard touchdown that is probably the highlight reel play of the game for the Chiefs. I have to pick a star of the game, every Chiefs home game, and you can always default to Patrick Mahomes, but this time the call was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Pete, what did you think of the guy?
Well, you couldn't ask for anything more for a rookie. I mean, you hit on everything with the fact that you didn't know what to expect, because you didn't get in any. There were no preseason games, so fans didn't know what to think either. And well, he showed he can make people miss, and he's not afraid to take contact. I think the only, from Chiefs fan perspective, I think the only thing that might have been a little disappointing was that he didn't bullet in there towards the end of the game from inside the 5. But, fans were fretting about that, and he's not going to show his best plays inside the 5 of a game they've got in hand. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. He was fantastic.
That's a good point, Pete, about the about the preseason games. And the other thing, not getting in at the end, I kind of put that on the backs of the offensive line as much as a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which brings me to the point, because we didn't see him in the preseason, and I didn't go to, because of the limited number of media allowed at practices, I didn't get to see him practice. He's small. He's a small package, a dynamic package, but a small guy. And it's going to be tough for him to run through people. He certainly showed the elusiveness, as you mentioned, the tackle missing ability, the cutback on the 27-yard run. That was just fantastic. And he did so many good things tonight. I wasn't sure. I thought it was interesting. He got the first attempt, the first snap of the Chiefs season went to him, and so did the second. And they just picked up 5 yards, and I'm thinking, are we going to see something? And then they got the 91-yard drive in the second quarter, and he had 40 yards of that 91-yard drive, and was from then on, I was just wowed by the guy. What did you think?
Right, it's only 1 week, of course, but he sure has the makings of a guy who can be kind of a workhorse for him. Like you said, they really relied on him more than I think anybody would have expected in this game, right?
Yep, for sure.
It definitely seemed like the Texans didn't know what to expect either, and maybe tried to take away some of the other weapons. The Chiefs got so many weapons on offense you can't take them all away, and let's see what the rookie can do. And well, he answered the bell, that's for sure. He was incredible, just a great performance. And
it gets my game ball. So I got the stats in front of me: 25 attempts, 138 yards with the touchdown. I think we think of him as a guy who's going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. And he only caught he was targeted twice, didn't catch either one of them. One of them, I can remember one of them was Mahomes under pressure and just kind of threw it away. I don't remember the second target. I think that part of his game is something that we'll see improve as the season continues. Hey, Sam McDowell has joined us. Sam, how you doing?
What's going on, guys? Great to see Pete, especially. Wow.
How about that? Good to see you, huh?
Pete here. Huh? All right, so for the topic on the table for now, Sam, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the game that he had.
Reasonable.
I don't know what superlative can you add to this?
I mean, if he had done nothing else the entire rest of the game and just made that move on Justin Reed in the secondary, we'd still be having a conversation about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The safety has an angle on him there, right? And he just doesn't even come close to getting a hand on him with one quick burst. His shiftiness was what stood out to me the most. There were times where we saw great views from NBC tonight where the hole was supposed to be in one spot and he shifted a couple notches to the right or to the left, and for cutbacks and sometimes for cutovers to cut a couple holes over past where the run was designed to go. I just think his shiftiness is incredible. Well, and that's something we didn't see from Damian Williams. Damian Williams had a lot of skills, right? A great skill set. He caught the ball out of the backfield. He was star in the Super Bowl last year. Has been a great playoff running back for the Chiefs, and numbers can't be denied. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire brings an ability to this team that Damian Williams did not. Damian Williams had a couple of touchdown runs of 91 and 84 yards. Yeah, he had some straight line speed. Yeah. Yeah, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is capable of that type of play in addition to everything else he can do. I think Clyde Edwards. I mean, Damian Williams. I always thought. I mean, as you know, Blair, I talked about it. I feel like every week on this medium that Damian Williams was a great fit for this offense because he could protect the quarterback, which is job number one, as Sam Mellinger would tell you. Sam 1.0 will tell you is the job of everybody. Job number one for everybody on this team is to protect the quarterback. But he also could catch out of the backfield really well. And he was okay with not getting 20 carries a game. You didn't hear him complain about that. So I always thought he was a great fit. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be a really good fit for a bit of a different reason. They've got enough home run threats on this team. I don't know if he's got the straight line speed that he's going to be rattling off, like you mentioned, those 91-yard runs that we saw from Damian Williams. But it seems like he's going to be a guy that can get 7 and 8, every time he touches the ball. In which case, when you've got Patrick Mahomes lining up on 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3, it's a whole lot of options for Andy Reid. Absolutely. I mean, the type of options that they didn't have with you've basically added an individual star at running, a potential star at running back to the stars that you have at wide receiver and at tight end, and just another weapon for Andy Reid. So, a lot of people are wanting to talk to us about the pregame and what's going on, and we will do that. We're going to get to that. I wanted to get through the game first. Sure. So as soon as the game was over, and I'm thinking about the things that I want to say and write about, the one thing that occurred to me was the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, we've always felt confident that they can outscore an opponent, right? That Patrick Mahomes' strong arm and his elusiveness and throwing against his body and doing all the crazy things that Patrick Mahomes can do, he can bail them out of any situation. And he's done that, right, in his 2 years and now 1 game as a starter. But tonight, I thought they won the game with defense and a running game. When was the last time we said that about the Chiefs, that they won a game against a good opponent by playing good defense and running the ball as effectively as they did? That, to me, is a complete game for this Chiefs team.
Yeah, when's the last time you said that about? I'll just interject quickly. When's the last time you said that about any Andy Reid coach team?
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think you're right, Pete. I mean, especially during the Patrick Mahomes era, I literally don't think we've ever been able to say that those were their two strengths in a football game. Now, Patrick Mahomes played well, and I think his biggest strength was the home run threats weren't there tonight because of the defensive coverages that the Texans were playing, especially deep cover twos. And he didn't go for it. He just took what the defense gave him, and that's why you saw Travis Kelce out of a big game. That's why you saw Sammy Watkins have a big game. But you're right, Blair. I think with what we saw from Clyde Edwards-Helaire tonight, it overshadows how good the defense was for at least 3.5 quarters. They weren't great on the first drive. I kind of thought this game was a microcosm of what we saw just in last season, except for the adjustments this time came in the middle of the game.
Well, how about, the Texans score first to make it 7-0, and then they don't score again for 4 possessions, and in that time the Chiefs go 31 unanswered, and then it makes it 31-7. This is against the Texans team that ran up 472 yards against the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium in the regular season, and put up another 450 or so against them in the playoff game. And tonight, they end up with 360 total yards, but 145 of that came after the game was out of hand. And I don't know if you guys listened to Tyrann Mathieu after the game. He was asked about it. He was, I was all prepared to praise him for the job the defense did, and our buddy Sam Mellinger did that, or tried to get him to talk about what a great job he thought the defense did. And Tyrann Mathieu was having none of it. He said he was pissed off about the way the defense played. And I'll tell you what, if he's going to take that attitude against what I think was one of the better defensive performances we've seen in the Steve Spagnuolo era, then I kind of like that. I think that bodes well for the Chiefs' potential on defense.
It's 4 minutes shy of midnight, Blair. We have to say he's ticked off for 4 more minutes.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Friday rules are not.
But go ahead, Pete.
Oh, I'm surprised to hear Tyrann say that. Deshaun Watson was a total non-factor in my mind. The Chiefs, he didn't break off any long runs. He didn't make any really outstanding passes. They kind of neutralized him, which I don't think anybody expected would happen. I think coming into the game with no preseason, I kind of thought the offenses would have more of it in the game, and the Chiefs kind of did what they wanted there in the big chunk of the game, but the Texans couldn't move the ball, and that's all credit to the Chiefs. Chris Jones had a great game as well, I thought.
I did too. Okay, was there a key moment in the game? Was there a key sequence, a key play, turning point? When you look back on this one, where did this game turn in favor of the Chiefs? Sam, what do you think?
I wanted to first say, you saying that they were up 31-7. I didn't think of this during the game, but they ended the last time they played these guys. They scored 51 of the final 58 points in that game. So that's what they were on. What, an 82-14 streak against these guys?
Yeah.
I mean, the Texans have to be tired of seeing this team, and they're not going to advance to the spots in the postseason without seeing this team, I don't think. But to get to your question, to me, the play of the game for sure was the Clyde Edwards-Helaire touchdown. That was the play that made you just say, whoa, look at what just happened in this game. And because of the way the Texans play defense, I think possibly the only one that really made you think that, although if Demarcus Robinson had come up with his second drop touchdown pass, I think we would be talking about that Patrick Mahomes throw quite a bit too.
Yeah, that was incredible. That was a highlight, the throw, even though it wasn't caught. Yeah, I'm just going to go back to when it was 14-7 Chiefs and the Texans were kind of driving. The defense stopped them and made them try a 51-yard field goal that they missed. The Chiefs went down, kicked the field goal at the end of the half, then got the ball and scored on Clyde's touchdown. To me, that was kind of a turning point too. It could have been a 14-10 game going into halftime instead of 17-7.
I thought there was a kind of maybe a mood swing in the game early when the Chiefs went for a 4th and 1 in the first quarter to keep alive their first touchdown drive. And I believe it was on the Texans' next possession. They didn't go for a 4th and 4 at midfield. And I know Chris Collinsworth made a big deal of it on the broadcast, but I just think at that point, maybe that came later in the half. I don't exactly remember. There weren't many possessions in the first half just because the Chiefs went 16 plays and 91 yards on that one drive. But I just think, the Chiefs showed some boldness. and I played the percentages, and I think this team is always going to go for 4th and 1. And Bill O'Brien and the Texans with a chance to, with a quarterback who's the second highest paid player in the game and with weapons on his side, decided to punt. And that did set up the Chiefs' 91-yard drive that put them ahead. So I don't know. To me, that's when the mood of the game swung. I just thought that Chiefs are playing to win this thing, and the Texans, playing the percentages. And I'm just not sure this is against this offense that you can play the percentages in this way. Hey, let me make another point here I wanted to ask you guys about. One of the things we talked about, look, this is a good chemistry team. There's no dissension at all. But you do wonder, by adding a star like Clyde Edwards-Helaire and to a team that has Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins and Mecole Hardman, are there going to be enough, plays for everyone? And I just thought tonight was a great example of how that can be made to happen. You dominate time of possession. You run more plays than your opponent. That gives you time to get the ball to Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And it's not coincidence. They each got into the end zone tonight. So we haven't talked much about the efficiency of the offense outside of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I thought, you're right, Sam. I thought Patrick Mahomes kind of had a quietly good game.
Yeah, most of Clyde Edwards-Helaire's touches are going to come from, when you look at just last year's numbers, from Damian Williams, Shady McCoy, Darwin Thompson had one game where he led this team in yards and carries. That's where most of his touches are going to come from. They might run the ball a little bit more, but I still think this is more about what the Texans were doing. And by the way, the Texans defended them a lot differently than they defended them in the playoff game last year. So I think even more of it came from them saying, if you guys don't get out of this defense, we're just going to keep running. And why fix something that's broken? Not broken.
Yeah, they don't need to have the 70-yard touchdown pass. And that's how you can hold on to the ball and distribute it to more people if you're not throwing those long passes all the time. And the Texans weren't going to allow them to have those deep balls as much as they have in the past. And so, hey, we'll take what you're going to give us. And if that's a 16-play drive and go 91 yards, that's devastating to a defense as well.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill knows how he's being defended. That's an important point in that conversation. He knows that he's being double-teamed every time he runs a deep route. He's not a guy that's going to be expecting to, hey, throw it to me anyway. He did get his touchdown, which I think is important probably in the conversation as well.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. Adam Rawlings asks, were you all as impressed with L'Jarius Sneed as I was? Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
First of all, we didn't know he was going to start, right? That's Sam. That was kind of a surprise, wasn't it?
I think I thought he would start, and just because I thought that the Texans were going to run so many 3 and 4 receiver sets, I thought he was going to be on the field for all of those. But I thought in the 2 receiver sets, I thought maybe we'd see Fenton on the outside rather than L'Jarius Sneed. And one of the reasons I'm shocked is we didn't see him in preseason, so we didn't have the chance to see what he could do. But I also think the other hand of that is the Texans didn't see what he could do either in preseason. We've talked about all the disadvantages of not having preseason, especially for the young guys. I think we saw an advantage of it tonight. They tried to pick on a guy who should not have been picked on tonight. And we saw once Charvarius Ward went out, which we should mention, that's a big injury for this team. He's got a hand fracture. Don't know how long he's going to miss, but he's going to miss some time with a hand fracture. They're going to reevaluate it tomorrow, probably get the nature of the seriousness of that. but that's going to put even more weight on a fourth-round rookie's shoulders. But tonight he showed he can handle it.
He did. He got the interception. Tyrann Mathieu set it up for him with the pressure on Deshaun Watson. Made it a jump ball type of interception for L'Jarius Sneed. Used his 4.3 speed to get down the field and set up another score on that interception return. The first takeaway for the Chiefs this year. Really neat to see a rookie cornerback get a pick in his first game. So let's talk about the secondary. Charvarius Ward. Let me go through the injuries real quick. What we know. Colin Saunders out with a dislocated elbow. Alex Okafor with a mild hamstring, we understand, and of course L'Jarius Sneed with the fractured hand. Don't know the extent. I guess in a couple of days we find out from Andy Reid what the extent of the injuries are. But all of them left the game and didn't return. And I suppose I thought going into these NFL openers that we would see some injuries. They just haven't been able to hit as much as they would have if they'd had preseason action. So of those three, it looks like, the Chiefs have some depth at defensive end, and defensive tackle's a little bit thin, though, right? So let's talk about that, Sam. Defensive tackle with, let's say, Saunders is out for a while, and the secondary with L'Jarius Sneed out.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Mike Pennell missing one more game as part of his suspension. Then you'll get him back. But, we saw a lot of Turk Wharton in there from Missouri S&T, undrafted rookie after Colin Saunders went out. I'm not a doctor, but Andy Reid said tonight that the dislocated elbow did not have other damage, so it could have been worse. So I think he was sort of signaling that this is not of the season-ending nature that they will – and Colin Saunders also tweeted that he will be back soon. So whatever news he got, he was pretty pleased with it. It looked bad, so maybe that's why he was pleased with it, to say, hey, you've got a shot at coming back. But, yeah, I mean, they're going to be thin at that position for a little while. Again, after seeing some rookies tonight, that's another spot I think all of a sudden you're going to see some rookies get some playing time. And one more rookie that we haven't mentioned also on that defensive line, Mike Dana played a lot tonight, and he had some pressures and hurries tonight. He's got to finish plays. And of course, finishing a sack against Deshaun Watson, one of the hardest guys in the league to do it against. But he made some things happen tonight too, I thought.
Yeah, and look, Deshaun Watson is an elusive quarterback, but he does get sacked a lot. He led the NFL his first full season.
He holds on to it for a long time. I mean,
he does. He tends to hold on to the ball for quite a long time. I thought the Texans did a pretty good job earlier in the game of, getting the ball out of his hand and being able to elude the Chiefs' pressure. But as the game went on and as the Texans fell further behind, that just wasn't available to him the way it was early. So, how about? Hey, Sam. Good to see you. Sam Mellinger joins us. How are you, buddy?
What's up, guys?
That's it for us, right?
What's that?
That's it. Show's over, right?
Yeah.
All right, Sam, we've covered Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the defense, L'Jarius Sneed, spreading the wealth on offense. A couple of people have asked about Willie Gay and his game tonight, his snaps. I guess I need to see a little bit more of game film because I don't know how many snaps he ended up getting tonight.
How many?
Yeah, I certainly didn't notice him. So we'll check that out. He was not inactive. Taco Charlton was inactive, which I was a little bit surprised by that. I imagine he'll come off the inactive list for next week. But one place we haven't gone, Sam, is the pregame, the protest, the national anthems. You were at the game and sitting in the press box. You were there. Let's go through just what you saw and what you heard, and starting with the Black national anthem, I guess is what it's called now, where the Chiefs lined up, along the end zone, right, shoulder to shoulder, and the Texans left the field for that. So, what was the press box talk about that?
It was strange. I thought that the Texans weren't there, and I'm sure they've got an explanation that they said on their post game that I wasn't in on because I was obviously doing the Chiefs. But It was a weird moment. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't see everything about right now, and everything about this game was weird. But those things don't happen very often. And it was very quiet when they were doing it. You could tell that this was a thing that most of the people here, I'm sure, were anticipating. The ones who weren't could certainly see that something else was going on. The Alicia Keys on the song she's incredible. My God.
How about Andy Reid praised her after the game?
Yeah. Andy Reid knows his anthem singers too, right? When is his daughter that did one last year?
Yeah, that's right.
When it was over, there were cheers. Don't get this twisted. There were certainly cheers, but there was also some boos. And I know that at least on Twitter, I've seen people say that was Chiefs, Chiefs, not boos. Look, I've been to a few games. There's a difference between, I've heard a lot of boos here, and I've heard a lot of Chiefs. There's a difference, and there was both. And I don't want. I'm sure that in some places this is going to get, relayed that everybody was just raining down boos and whatever. That's not what it was, but it was rather striking to after a what I thought was a thoughtful, considered display of unity, that you have some people booing, and it happened again. And the second time it happened when the teams lined up, kind of midfield just before kickoff. I didn't hear those boos actually from where I was at, but I did see the videos, and it's pretty clear there. The Chiefs, I think this is notable, over and over. I think Andy did it. Mahomes, Matthew, maybe I'm forgetting about somebody. Herbie's on here now. He can tell me if I'm forgetting about somebody, but they all basically said, I was too locked in. I didn't hear that. And I think that was, from a PR standpoint, probably smart, but it did happen for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Herbie.
We certainly heard it in the press box. We all looked at each other. Was that booing? And sure enough, it was absolutely booing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that Vahe and I, were listening to replays and had our ears, as close to the, the speakers we could, and it was. You're right, Sam. We've all been there and heard, after the national anthem, Chiefs, and we've heard many boos, and those were not Chiefs cheers at the time. However, and I made it a point that many more cheers, and the cheers were audible after the moment of unity. The locked arms where Mahomes and Watson were together, and Andy Reid was a part of that, and J.J. Watt. So I don't know. I know that the social media being what it is, the fans took a beating tonight on social media. What do we make of that?
I think that's what comes with the platform, right? I think that's what comes with, the most watched game since the Super Bowl.
Right.
And, I would assume by a bunch. This was people, me included, us included, all of us, I think, have just been starved for NFL football. And I think that's what comes with the platform. I do think it'll probably be exaggerated, sort of the ratio of boos to cheers, if that matters. But what are you going to do? It happened.
You got to go back a couple of years ago, and if y'all will definitely remember this, the sickening and disgusting incident here with Eric Winston, and obviously I'm talking about the Matt Castle injury, where there were some fans who booed, and I think that's what happened here. It was just probably a pocket of fans, and unfortunately, all the Chiefs fans are now being cast into this light that everyone booed, and that's not the case at all. Because, like you said, Blair, you and Vahe, and we did hear some cheering as well. So it shouldn't reflect on the entire fan base, but it's unfortunately that the few that did decide to boo. It takes me back to when Matt Castle was injured, and you had a few people booing, and the entire Chiefs fan base took a pounding.
Right. Okay, let's get to a couple questions, and these would be for Sam and Herbie since you were there. Chris Boone asks, was there any artificial noise pumped in? There was some talk about that. I know that on the broadcast, Al Michaels and Collinsworth both were praising the noise of the Arrowhead crowd. But did you guys notice any artificial noise pumped in?
I don't know.
I did not.
I could.
Yeah.
I
That's not to say it didn't happen, but that's not what I heard. But I do think this 15,985, I think, was the announced crowd. Yeah. And the per capita noise was very high. They showed up. They sure did.
Yeah. Hey, Vahe Gregorian has joined us. What's up,
What's up, buddy?
Hey, y'all. It's nice to see half your face, Herbie. That's about as much as I want to see.
Hey, unlike Sam, I'm following the Arrowhead press box rules about mask on at all times. And they just yell down the hallway, hey, welcome to a COVID environment. They just yell down the hallway, 29-minute warning. They're going to close in 29 minutes.
All right, there's our deadline. Vahe, we've covered a lot of bases. We just finished talking about the pregame. Let's continue that conversation with you. I know that's what you wrote about, and that's what that will appear online if it's not already there on kansascity.com. What was the tenor of your column?
I honestly felt like a kick in the gut from that, from what happened with the booing, particularly during the moment of unity. There was something about it that just that really hit me, and I really couldn't believe it. I had to keep kind of trying to listen to make sure that it really was what could be heard, and it just makes me sad. So I just felt like I needed to write about that. Honestly, it's kind of hung over me over the result of the game. Even it just felt like that kind of thing to me. And it's one of these curious situations where Blair and I don't know if you talked about this, Blair, but we watched here at the paper, and maybe it would have felt different. Maybe it would have felt more harsh or more strange at the game, but to see it out here in TV land, it didn't go away from me during the game. So I don't know if you guys felt like that, but that was how I felt.
Well, let me say this. One thing that we noticed just because we watched it on television, so we were paying attention to the halftime with Mike Tirico and Tony Dungy, and they didn't address it. Not that part, not the boos. So whatever national perspective from this is coming pretty much from, at least tonight, right, on a national level, is coming from social media. And
it was on ESPN after the game.
Okay.
Talked about it.
Well, and the other thing that's kind of interesting, of course, is that either they were being gracious or there'd been some decision made to not really discuss it. But I thought it was a little interesting that the Chiefs, to a man afterwards, said they didn't notice it. It seemed a little funny to me the way that went. And I'm not saying they shouldn't take the high road and avoid it. I just thought it seemed a little funny to me, and maybe just not something they wanted to process right away. Then the other thing I do want to say that to be sure that this resonates is that it's quite obvious from whether you guys from in the stadium or out here watching that the vast majority of fans didn't do that. But there were enough of them that did it that it troubled me.
Blair, just to get in a couple of the because the people that did acknowledge it, I think it's important. Patrick Mahomes said he did see the videos afterwards, and I thought he had a really good quote on it. He said, we just wanted to show unity. We wanted to show we're going to come together and fight the good fight. I hope our fans will support us like they do in the game every single day. And then J.J. Watt completely acknowledged the boom was unfortunate in that moment. I don't understand that. There was no flag involved. There was nothing involved other than the two teams coming together to show unity. And to me, that's what stood out about it. I mean, this topic has become a debate based on the flag and the national anthem. And one of the things these guys did was separate that from what their demonstration was going to be, and for it still to cause some sort of division. That's the disappointing part to me.
I like that point too, Sam. And in what I wrote, I tried to make the point that this was a clear they wanted to make statement, but it was also clear effort to sort of compromise of sorts, right? To find some ground that would not be perceived as controversial, inherently controversial, and it's a debate in itself about whether that should be controversial about kneeling during the anthem. But yeah, I just thought they were people determined to vent, and they did.
Okay, let's since we got Herbie, Sam, and Vahe here, let's as we start to wind down, let's circle back to the game a little bit. Terrence Wardle Robinson makes a point, a really good one. It was a good night for rookies on this team. What did Herbie? Not just Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but others made an impact. What's your observation on that?
Well, obviously, we know Edwards-Helaire. The numbers, the production, the stats speak for themselves. The guy was simply amazing. He's everything that he was billed to be, a fantastic fit for Andy Reid's offense. We can't speak enough about L'Jarius Sneed. Coming into this game, and it caught a lot of us by surprise. We were actually expecting Fenton at the right cornerback spot, and it was Sneed who got the start, which kind of like we should have known better because in training camp he was getting a lot of reps there with the ones. But I thought he had a phenomenal game. And he's certainly going to be needed now that you have Charvarius Ward, Sam's guy, out with a fractured hand. And this is a position they are now precariously thin at. You've got Bashaud Breeland, one suspension down, so he has 3 more games to go, and no telling how long Ward's going to be out. You're probably going to see a lot of free agency action here happening very soon.
How about we did not see Willie Gay much tonight, but
yeah.
What Mike Dana though did play. We got some Mike Dana, and Bo Pete Keys was inactive along with Taco Charlton. So I think probably more from first-year players, rookies tonight than I expected.
They're going to need them though, and I think by them coming out here and showing what they were able to do against a perennial playoff team in the Houston Texans, they held their own. L'Jarius Sneed, when that play he made against Brandon Cooks, that reminded me so much of what we saw out there at camp when he was locked up on Tyreek Hill. 2 speedsters going at it down the sideline, and he stayed with them. And then for him to make that play on Brandon Cooks, a guy who has 4 1,000-yard receiving seasons to his name, that really says a lot about him. And Tyrann Mathieu, after the game, said that he was impressed. He was excited for L'Jarius Sneed.
Matt O'Connor reminds us, don't forget about the punter holder, Tommy Townsend. I thought he had an opportunity. He got one inside the 5 and missed one. His first one, had a chance to coffin corner that and didn't get a chance to do it. But it looks like he was clean on the holds for Harrison Butker's kicks. Hey, Sam Mellinger, just let's just go through the offense real quick to help close this down. I thought that the Chiefs did a great job kind of distributing the wealth tonight. We're going to talk a lot about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's going to be the story that comes out of this game. But Pete and I were talking just to begin this conversation tonight. I thought Mahomes was pretty quietly effective, if Mahomes could ever be quietly effective. But, really nice passer rating, not a great number of total yards. The opportunities downfield weren't there for him, but distributed the ball well. When you get your star players in the end zone, seems to make all of them pretty happy.
Yeah, this is something they talked about after the game a lot in a few different ways, is that, the Texans played a different defense tonight than they have in the past. And it was a lot of cover 2, and it was, cover 2 on 10, right? Like a cover 2 on Tyreek Hill to keep him from going downfield. And it sort of worked. I mean, I don't know. The Patriots have done that in the past, so, take away that guy. But Andy Reid used a word, maturity, for Patrick. And he said, we can call these plays where maybe the first read is downfield on a big hit, but we know that he's not going to force that pass, that he's going to see what's actually playing instead of what he's expecting and check down. Remember when check down was like a cuss word around here, right? And now it just means like efficiency. But yeah, I mean, they've got, I think what you saw was, kind of what a lot of us have been talking about, right? It's a crazy talented offense. And Edwards-Helaire just adds to that. And I thought, we talk a lot about the skill position guys, and we should. They're incredible. But the offensive line showed out tonight. I mean, they were great. They were great what was it, 1 sack, I think. And in the run game, they were terrific.
Early.
I mean, Edwards-Helaire earned it, what he got, and he was great, but he had some holes. And that's an offensive line that hasn't always been, great in the run game. And they really were tonight. They beat they beat the Texans up, offense and defense. I thought they were, I think about it like this, right? Like the Chiefs are almost always going to be the faster team when they play. And if they can be the stronger team, the more physical team like they were tonight, then, I don't know what you do with these guys.
You can make a case that on that 91-yard touchdown drive that Edwards-Helaire had almost half of the yards on that, but the MVP of that drive was Kalichi Osemele. He was the one that was opening up holes and doing a really, really good job on that drive, especially. So I think that's a good point, Sam. I know that after the game, some of the Chiefs talked about the inability to punch the ball in the end zone when it was, when they were up comfortably. I think that always has something to do with it. When you've got a multi-touchdown lead and you've got to show grit and determination in the red zone, sometimes it's just not there the way it would be if it were a tie game or a score game. So just didn't happen. All right, let's go to one more question here. Matt O'Connor, was D-Rob disappointing? I said he was in a story for tomorrow. Had an opportunity to get into the end zone twice. What do we make of DeMarcus Robinson's game, Herbie?
Well, absolutely, it should have been DeMarcus Robinson's game. But you know what? He's a pro, and you got to shake that kind of stuff off there. And that first touchdown, I don't know if he would have caught it. It looked like it hit the ground, but the second one certainly should have been caught.
Absolutely. Okay, hey, guys, great chat. I want to thank Pete Gradhoff for batting leadoff today, Sam McDowell, Herbie Teope, Sam Mellinger, Vahe Gregorian for joining us. We will be back Thursday to talk about the Chiefs playing the L.A. Chargers, and I think I have this right, in the fourth different stadium in 5 years. I think for the Chargers. So we're going to break down the game for you then. We'll have more to say about what happened tonight. So thanks to you guys. Thanks to Beth Welsh for producing. We are out of here, and we will talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Blair.
That'll do it for today and this week on SportsBeat KC. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Randy Mason, Beth Welsh, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. A tip of the cap to the gang that stopped by last night and talked Chiefs football. Pete Gradhoff, Sam McDowell, Sam Mellinger, Herbie Teope, and Vahe Gregorian. Links to their stories can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, earlier in the episode, you heard me talk about the Sports Pass offer. It still stands and still a good one, $30 for a year's worth of sports coverage. And that includes the Sports Extra that comes with the e-edition. There's more than 50 additional pages of national sports coverage today. Well, here's an even better offer. Buy the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports, news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details are at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. That's account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Monday with a new episode.